We'll call meeting to order. Shelley, can you do roll call, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. District 1, Councilman Rios.
Present.
District 2, Councilman Pastor.
Present.
District 3, Councilman Leatham.
Present.
District 4, Vice Mayor Stapleton.
Here.
District 5, Councilwoman Giles.
Here.
District 6, Councilman Shipley will be joining shortly, virtually. Mayor Gamaros.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Shelley. Please join me in prayer. God our Father, we ask for your protection against the COVID-19 and for the many lives it has affected. Guide the hands and the minds of medical experts that they may minister to the sick with a competence and compassion, and for those governments and private agencies that must find a cure and solution to this epidemic. We pray for all our businesses and our residents that have been, the businesses that have been shut down, and our residents that are laid off without a job. And please, we ask for a healing for the division that exists throughout our country. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Mike, can you lead us in the pledge?
Sure, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll go to summary of current events. Do we want to skip that till we get to our opportunity to speak at that time? So we'll just skip the current events for now. But I will refer to Paul.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, on just as a summary of current events from the city manager, we did, unfortunately, within the city family, we had 2 positive cases of COVID-19. I spoke with them both last night. They're both doing well. And our prayers go with them for a speedy recovery. I think that we all kind of had a wake-up call when the first case hit. I think it was a week ago tonight, and I will tell you that we're doing better. We were in the process. There's I have a draft memo. It's gotten to be about 5 pages of things that we haven't quite. I was hoping to have it ready for tonight, but at least for staff, as to some of the a little bit more assertive on some of the things. And I'll tell you, we have a very, very eager group of people ready to comply. CDC guidelines, 6 foot separation, masks when you're dealing with each other within 6 foot, or members of the public. We're doing a phased in rollout in one department. And they should be fully back up to speed, except for a couple of cases we're doing separating buildings. One of the key things we figured out, there's no reason for one person from assigned to one building to come into another building. We have windows and we're making use of them. So I think internally among ourselves, everybody's gonna double down on our requirements to stick with CDC guidelines. We've actually created a command group with just like an emergency operation thing, but internally we're vetting all of our decisions and guidelines to make sure we're consistent and compliant, and that's what we'll be rolling out tomorrow. My great appreciation to both the fire department especially and the police department for their help as part of this team. And I think that I think the city will feel more at ease. I know we've lots of outreach from people all over the globe and outside the globe, for the concern for our city staff. I know council's concern for city staff, and I think when you see some of the changes we'll be implementing and have implemented, as soon as I can get it ready for prime time to go out to you, you should see it in the next 24 hours. Everybody will be very happy. You have to just assume that anyone that you're not totally familiar with, they may. So you just treat everybody as who is within 6 feet of you as somebody you have to be careful of. Masking protects others around you. 6 foot, try to do outdoors, not indoors. No more hard and fast rule other than emergency, one person in a truck. There are many things that we're firming up on this, and you'll see it, and we'll have more information a week from tonight, the new meeting. But we are making changes, making sure we're on top of that. Staff is hungry for those changes, and we'll get this locked down to a more rigorous set of protocols with city staff. I think that's all I have for council tonight.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to read our first for new business. In this consideration of recommendations to the Globe City Council from local business owners, local employees, and residents regarding the economic recovery plan and the reopening of the local businesses in order to provide feedback to the mayor regarding the request from Governor Ducey seeking input from Arizona cities and towns mayors. So I will begin just to kind of set the stage. I will say that anybody online, that we were wearing our masks as we moved around to get to our places, and then we removed them once we were in our 6 foot distancing location. So we want to make sure that you understand that we're complying with all those rules and regulations too, or guidelines. To set the stage with this is the reason we did this is the governor has given all the mayors in Arizona an opportunity to submit suggestions on how our cities would look like as we open up. This isn't this isn't for when it'll open or requesting to open now or anything. It's more about what we would look like and what do we need to look like. So we're really looking for positive and progressive suggestions and input, especially the ones that are shut down now. You know, the restaurants, the bars, the barbers, the salons, the gyms, you know, businesses like that. So what we're going to look for in the future, and I think once we do open, is some kind of plan that's in place that's going to show how we're going to disinfect, how we're going to social distance, because it's not going to be that there's going to be some magic dust out there that once we open up that everything's gone and we're going to forget about it. It isn't. It's going to be a totally different world that we live in, at least for maybe the next year. Who knows? You know, we hope that we can open in the near future, but it's going to be a different thing. So some of my ideas and the ones that I thought, and I don't just want ideas to be mine, I want it to be our council and our community. We send them to the governor, but I really feel that we need to have self and efficient screening and testing, and we need to be able to identify if we have a new case and isolate that immediately. So we do have testing right now, but it's difficult to get a test because you got to meet criteria, whether it's at the hospital, whether it's a health department or doctor's office. Not everybody is getting a test because there's priority lists as who actually gets a test. Also, we need to reassure that our city, our community has enough personal protection equipment, especially for our healthcare providers, our firefighters, and our police officers. We need to understand that every day that this virus goes on and we're in restrictions, it gives us a day to learn more about this virus so we can move forward in a positive direction. Today, the numbers is 5,251 positive cases, 208 deaths in Arizona. So we're still, if you look at the phases as set forward by President Trump to all the governors of the United States, they want to see a continuous 14-day decline in numbers as we go down. But here in Arizona, we're still seeing about a 13% positive increase in positive cases and 11.2% increase in deaths. So we're not seeing that. We may see the plateau, we may see it to be at the plateau, but we're not at the decline part of it. We did get another positive case in Gila County today. So that gives 4 for Payson, 5 for Globe, and this new one is out of Winkelman, a 70-year-old female. That was this afternoon. So what we want to do, I'm going to open it up first to our council for any of their suggestions and opinions. We got a lot of business people within our council that have probably some ideal recommendations, and then we want to listen to you, the business people in the community, as what we want to send forth to
And Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I wanted to share with everybody on council and the people who emailed and the people who are watching this. There is a strong nationwide debate about when we should reopen. How soon? It's that balance between safety and economy. The markings, the president's rollout plan has a scenario, a formula for when it's there. I think this discussion, based on what we talked about, is when the time comes to open, how should we roll that out? Who should go first? What should be the steps going through there? I'm going through the emails. A lot of emails are talking about when we should open, not so much on how, and I'm going to focus on how we should open.
And I think that's what we're after. Those are the comments they want to hear.
Yep.
And I'll give one comment, text that I got from one of our business people from Bloom, from John Wong. And his comment was he feels it's too early to open, like many others do. And we know people are hurting out there, and we want it open, but that was his opinion, and he feels that it should be a percentage of your, if you're a restaurant, that we're not going to be able to open to 100% capacity. So we need to look at maybe if we're going to open at 50%, 60%, whatever it is, some way we can still comply with the guidelines of the 6-foot distancing, and then gradually build into the 100%. As leaders in our country, in our state, and even in our community, we need to make a balanced decision on what's going on and be practical and safe. We cannot make decisions from fear. It has to be based on data and science, so we can make the right decision at the right time. So I'm going to open it up to our council for suggestions and comments, and I want to start with Freddie on this end over here.
Thank you, Mayor. So, my first thought is that I'm optimistic that at this point we're having discussions about how we're going to open. It wasn't long ago, 1 or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about all the social distancing and the self-quarantines and how bad is it going to get, and lockdowns and things like that. So I'm not saying we're out of the woods, but I'm happy that we're having the conversation, that we can start thinking about how we're going to open back up. I also agree with some of your comments, Mayor, that the testing is obviously something that the scientists in this country highly recommend. With all the social distancing, and I also agree that whatever decisions we make, they must be based on facts and not passion. I know people are hurting on the business sector, and just as individuals that are complying with these rules and these guidelines, having to stay sheltered in place, and they want to get out and do things. But the biggest fear I have is that we as a society start portraying a situation that is unreal, that we're safe and we can go back to normal life as we knew it, because we don't want another surge of this infection. That would be more devastating, in my opinion, than where we are today. As far as what things that we can look at, just roughly thinking, as we went into these phases of restrictions, as COVID-19 started to make its presence, we started with, as I recall, recommendations of not more than 100 people, and then not more than 50 people, and then not more than 10 people, and then closing down. I think we should start looking at opening back up in a similar phase or similar action where we reverse that role. Maybe we go back to the 5 to 10 people per restaurant or per dining area, but continue with the social distancing, disinfection after every use. I know this places a lot on our business personnel, but we all have to keep in mind that disinfection is is 99.9% accurate and effective. We know that the social distancing has proven in the country to be somewhat effective. I think we're very fortunate that we don't live like others do in New York. We're more spread out here in the rural areas where we're naturally separated the way we live. And so things, I just think in general, without going to a lot of detail, because we're talking about a draft of something that's going to change from day to day. And so for me to try and pinpoint what the first phase is going to look like, I just want to say that my thought is that we just reverse the course of action as we were going into the restrictions. We reverse those actions and start opening up in those similar types of restrictions. Like I said, maybe 10 people in one room dining at one time with the separation, with all the hygiene that we're going to have to need. Obviously, masks is strongly recommended by the CDC. And whatever we do, we really have to keep one thing in focus, and that is we must take care of each other's dignity and their health, and not because you're not sick or you don't feel like you're going to be sick, or you're at an age group where you can handle an illness like this. We must respect each other's well-being. And I think that's going to be one of the main drivers, in my opinion, is how are we going to respect each other as a society and not separate by gender or age when we come back to whatever new world we're going to come back to. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Freddie. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 pages of things that we discussed at my business that we can input and change. Obviously, the reopening of business is going to be different than it has been in the past, and I think we all know this. So I'll start with number 1. And as a reminder, too, we're already practicing a lot of these procedures, but I'm going to go ahead and read them all anyhow. Number 1, we're going to be removing and rearranging dining tables to ensure the 6-foot distancing is maintained. And those that don't know me, I do own a restaurant, so this pertains to my restaurant. So right now we have 8 dining tables in the main dining room. We'll have either 5 or 6 depending on the floor plan. If we can get 6 feet apart, that's our goal. And then in the second dining room, I have 6 tables that'll reduce down to 3, 4 at the most. We will also be seating patrons instead of having them seat themselves. So we'll direct them to tables to, if I got, if the restaurant isn't full, I'll have one table at one end and another table at the other end, or even possibly another dining room. No groups larger than 10 will be allowed at one time, which we all have been talking about. We will bring the bills to the tables to avoid people standing at the cash register in lines. So after every meal, or during their meal, they'll get their bill, and they'll be free to go up and pay their bill when it's clear of other patrons. We will not be refilling drinks anymore. We'll still offer the free drinks, the refills, but instead of bringing the drinks to the table and refilling them, we're going to go ahead and give them fresh cups to avoid transferring any possible germs. We will still offer curbside pickup and deliveries to accommodate those who are at higher risk and still don't want to go out to eat. They might feel worried still about going out and patronizing other businesses, so we'll still offer everything that we're doing right now. We will offer single-serve condiments instead of bottles of ketchup, mayonnaise, mustard, Tabasco sauce, what have you. They'll get either packets upon request or portion cups of whatever they would like. So there'll be no more condiments on the tables. We will expand on our already high standards of cleanliness by frequently sanitizing doorknobs, bathrooms, and any other frequently touched surfaces. That's nothing new. We've been doing that for years, since I've owned a restaurant, that we're going to make sure that we do maintain that quality. Our staff will be washing their hands in between customers and wearing gloves when serving food and drinks, as well as when bussing tables. Again, that's standard practice of what we do, other than the wearing the gloves, but we're going to have them do that along with their washing their hands. We will encourage all staff to stay at home if they are not feeling well, and we will be monitoring their symptoms of all the staff. So if they say they're feeling well, but they might have a little cough or what have you, we'll take their temperature and see if they're coughing. We've done it before, we'll send them home. Then we've made adjustments to equipment to maintain distancing with staff. I've been not closed, but slowed way down for almost 4 weeks now. So we've used that time to change some things that we've done in the past, and went ahead and cleaned the entire restaurant, which again, it's always done, but a nice deep cleaning. But for an example, all the prep items have been moved out of the kitchen and into another area. Extra cups and ice go for examples, and now out of the prep area, which they used to be, we've moved the ice machine out to the front, along with the cups that we'll be delivering to the customers. And then we'll also have everything else moved for the waitresses out front instead of in the back prep area, to avoid staff intermingling with other staff in the back in the kitchen area. So we're practicing the 6 foot self-distancing all together and have them. So those are my suggestions, right? Or those are what we'll be doing at our business.
That was a very good suggestions, and we got them down. You got your list. Anything I didn't hear on mask or anything, a requirement for mask or no? Or facial covering?
I can add that to this bullet with the gloves and the washing their hands frequently. So I can add that.
Yeah, just the question for me was.
Or wearing masks. Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. Charlene?
I don't really have anything personal. I have spoken with a lot of our residents and a lot of our business owners, and the vast majority of them think that we are not near the peak yet, and that it is just too soon to even contemplating reopening. There were a few that don't feel that way, but the vast majority do. I do have a text from Tom Walsh. He's a resident that lives over on Collins, and they watch the council meetings on a regular basis. Said they're very concerned about the future of Globe. It seems to me that isolating the vulnerable and keeping the town alive can be done without having to choose who to let reopen, Meals on Wheels, etc. I strongly feel that the answer to the reopening of Globe is to have tables and chairs in secure areas in the street in front of the businesses, and have a formula based on occupancy of a building being reduced. Have displaced employees going back to work. A poker run could raise money for the affected. Another question I have is, with a large portion of Globe made up of retired people, is it possible to point out at-risk residents that could wait longer than normal to re-enter? Basically, that's about it. States that down in the valley, Home Depot and Walmart have one exit and one entrance, but now Safeway and Walmart here and Fry's are all doing that. And I will say, we went to Safeway last night and somebody was out there counting to make sure there weren't too many people in. Walmart's got all the entrances closed off except for that one there in the front. Fry's has the tape on the floor outside, but the manager at Fry's said they hadn't gotten enough people that they had to start that yet. And I see the sneeze guards up at the stores, and people they're really starting to take precautions. So I think it's a shame it took a few cases to get that to happen, but now we're really seeing. Another question I was asked, and I don't know if this is anything we would have access to. Do we know how many people that are tested positive actually are hospitalized, or are the vast majority of people just recuperating at home? Do they require hospitalization?
Are you talking statewide or?
In Globe. I don't think they do either, and I don't know if we can find out, but I said I'd ask the question.
Yeah.
We cannot find out, okay. Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, Shirley. Mike?
Well, Mr. Mayor and fellow council members, of course, I'm in the high-risk group, and I've been dealing with it since the middle of March. My wife and I have pretty much hunkered down at home. I do all the running around if it needs to be done. I've been very fortunate to hit different stores, different businesses that are still open, where the crowds are minimal. The only disappointment I see is that people are still hesitant to wear masks, and I think that's important, and we need to really encourage that. I know a lot of people don't like that idea, but I don't feel it's a hindrance. I think it's a safety issue for everybody out there. And I would, along with Charlene, I would agree that I don't think we need to push it too soon. I think that just what's happened here in Globe in the last week and a half, the way the numbers have increased, I don't think we've reached the peak. I think originally the peak was set for first week of May or somewhere, and then hospitals were supposed to be maxed out towards the middle of May. So I think we ought to be real careful and be aware that things are changing, but let's don't jump in real quick. I know the business people are hurting. I personally have tried to hit my restaurants that I like to go to, and unfortunately it's all of them, so I've still got some more to hit. But takeout is a little inconvenient, but not that much. You can get what you want, and I think it helps the community. So I just want us to be real smart and not just open the door before it's too soon. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mike. Jesse?
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councilman Rios and you as well, Mayor. The same steps in which the government closed down the businesses that would be beneficial to opening the businesses back up. The best practices I feel that anybody could follow with businesses and their personal hygiene would be the CDC guidelines. With that said, I also agree that we need to be careful with opening up businesses without reaching the peak. I fear a rebound could happen, and that would be devastating for a rebound to happen. Rather than what we currently have, I could imagine a world where if a rebound happened, such as the Spanish flu, the businesses that are open currently in the way they're operating, having to shut down. So I fear that maybe opening too soon could hinder the businesses that are currently able to operate the way that they are. With not owning a business, I guess I'd turn to the comments that Paul has and the comments that the business owners are putting in to see how they feel and I guess get the temperature from there. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. And do we have Fernando online? Fernando, you got comments?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, as the executive, Mayor, you have the opportunity to decide. That's your job, and you have the expertise and the background as a first responder and a manager of the fire department. I think you probably have more knowledge and wisdom than we do combined. But honestly, we've only tested 102 people in all of Gila County, which is a population of somewhere between 53,000 and 54,000. So there's probably people out there that are infected that have no idea. They're non-symptomatic. So I think that regardless of what we do, people have to use their own best judgment as to what's best for them and their family. So if I don't go to a restaurant and eat right now, it's because I'm concerned about the welfare of my family. And so I have mixed emotions. I don't believe that we are anywhere near getting this under control. But at the same time, most of us will have mild flu symptoms and will recover and fine. But that is not going to be the case for everybody. So it's a tough call. But I feel like, Mayor, I have confidence that you'll do what needs to be done, and I'll follow the rules.
Thank you, Fernando. Thank you. We'll open it up, Paul, to any of the emails that you have that we can listen to and suggestions.
Yes, let me, and I think I have 17 emails that focus primarily on the timing. I think that I just wanted to explain a little bit that, last week you got word that the governor was seeking input. It's starting to pick up nationally on the open up strategy. Now, I think a lot of these emails reflect that Gila County is a little bit in the lag, so it seems awkward that we're having these rising cases while at the same time we're talking about opening strategies. But remind everyone, this is our effort to give Mayor you information that you can pass along to the governor before he rolls his out, which will probably have a timeline. So we kind of are on a good timeline to get input into the governor's decision, even though it seems awkwardly early to do this. And I will say that the city and the mayor's executive power with special, to the emergency power, the governor's override us. There's only, I don't think we don't have the power. The mayor doesn't have the power to do any opening before the governor backs off of his. Although you could slow things down a little bit too, I believe. It depends how they write that. So I just wanted to do those two caveats. Let's see. I do. Let me read. I'm just going to read these. Some of these are really, really good, and so I'm going to do my best job. I apologize if I butcher this. This is from Erica Flores. And it's a longer email, but there's one paragraph that I think is really strong. I'm just going to read you the paragraph. I feel very strongly that when businesses begin to reopen, there needs to be a new level of precaution for both the businesses and the customers, consumer, community members. I do not know what exactly those precautions should be, but believe they should align with the social distancing guidelines we are currently under. Limiting the number of people in a space at any given time. Cleanliness, personal safety measures, face masks, hand washing, sanitizer, and continuing to limit our social contact as often as possible. This needs to be in place for the safety of the workers and the customers, and truly our whole community. So I think that is the first one we have. I don't know if Mayor, if you want to comment on that, or want me to go on to the next one.
Anybody have any comments on that? I think it's the point of the new precautions. That's a key word for the business people, not only the business people, but their patrons. And I think there has to be some guidelines, especially, and I know her husband's a barber, and there has to be precautions for him. And at the same time, and the people he's serving. So there has to be protection both ways, I think. So we really need to get, when the barbershops and salons start opening up, we need their ideas. Well, we really need to emphasize on that.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, there's a theme that you can maintain the safety, the social distancing, we're learning better, and still be able to be a consumer and go to businesses that are not essential. And I think that's kind of a theme here. Let me go to the next one.
Just to comment on that too, being a barber or salon, that's going to be hard to maintain that social distance. Although I saw some video, I don't know if it was South Korea or somewhere where they were doing salons, but they were wearing the face shields, the person doing the haircut and stuff like that. So that, that's just ideas that we can look at.
Right, and that was another thought I had. The technology is gaining, on us, and there's ways we're all incorporating technology, kicking and screaming, to make that. And I think that technology is a safety barrier between consuming and the safety. This is from Tracy Quick. I'm going to read the second paragraph. Let's see here. I'm going to read the whole thing. Okay. This is Tracy Quick from the Huddle. I'm already making it clear to those that ask that the very earliest that I would consider opening is Monday, June 1st. The decision to go ahead and open at the time would be based on how truly safe I feel it is for my customers and employees. Opening too soon could very possibly just set up another shutdown. Don't see the value in that. This is the key sentence, I think, for what we're talking about. On another subject related to COVID-19, I, as a very, very small business, would really appreciate the support of my local government in pushing to not penalize the small businesses, of which I'm one, that are unable to pay the TPT for March and their upcoming 2020 first quarter taxes. I think a 90-day reprieve from the time businesses are allowed to go forward conducting said business seemed like a fair thing to all parties. So she's kind of focusing on that transition, but I wanted to share that one with you. And I do believe that the city is doing what we can, with extending the payment plan for water. I think we're looking at possibly a discussion in the future about rebates of the cost of business licenses. Also, we have a $3 fee if you pay your water bill by phone. We're waiving that because we want to encourage people to get on the phone rather than come down. And so I think the key line that caught my eye in here, the partnership between government and the business, and I think that's what we're doing and can do more of. So that is Tracy's. Any comments on Tracy and her comments?
I do agree with her. I don't know if 90 days or what have you, but looking at when these businesses can open, maybe postponing when their business license fee is due. So if it was due in January, now it's due in March of next year. So it gives them an opportunity to recoup some of their losses and get back on their feet rather than right off the bat having to pay another fee. Well,
in talking about this, we're what's the word? We're trying to smooth the curve, or we're trying to flatten well, I think we're trying to flatten the bills for anybody. If we can extend them out, I mean, that's why Councilman Giles goes out and buys gift cards. A gift card from a restaurant is a way they get cash now for a meal that they sell in the future. And so that is almost a little payday loan or small loan to them, and then you have that in the bank. So anything we can do as a government to flatten the curve for that costs that businesses have to occur while they have no income is going to help extend those businesses so they can make it to the other side. They can make it to the opening whenever that may be. Let me go on.
I have a comment on that.
Go ahead.
I do. So buy burros, buy burgers, buy whatever. We're all going to have to go on a diet after this is over because I've never eaten so much taken food in my life. But my husband's liking it, so I'm thinking he must think that the restaurants cook a little better than I do.
Any other comments or? No. I think with their comment on TPT or the taxation, and I think that's a workshop that we're going to have as a council to see, because once we get to that point, we're still a ways away, but once we do, I think we're going to change our focus on how do we rebound our community? And we're really going to work with these businesses to get as many as we can back open as soon as we can.
No, and that is our goal, to to recover from this health issue, and so it doesn't become a gigantic economic burden. Here's another one. This would be from Tom Hawley. It's just short and sweet. I personally think it is time to allow smaller businesses open before they lose everything and cannot. If Walmart, Fry's, Ace are doing business, the small guy should be allowed to do it also. Then he goes on, as for restaurants, if there is still a social distancing fear, then limit to half occupancy, but allow them to continue to carry out and deliver businesses if they wish to. It seems like a couple places are doing well with the concept. But he makes a really good point on equity. One store that sells certain things, but also sells food is allowed to open where other places are not. I think a small shop could probably do as good a job, if not better, in protecting their customers and do the social distancing. I think I would encourage the governor to allow them to try. And those who want to take the time, I think we don't lower this, we don't change the distancing and the hygiene, but we do allow more people, if they want to do it right, to have that opportunity to go back and open for business. So any comments on that?
I agree
Mayor,
with
Members
that.
Council?
I agree with that.
Ready?
I was also going to say I agree with that concept. I think it has to be filtered through a little bit to see how that'll work. But right now we're in a situation where only the essential items are able to be purchased. But if we're going to start we'll call it a soft opening of our economy, of our society and our government, I believe that the small businesses should have that opportunity to also have that soft opening. And as long as they stay within the guidelines of the distancing and the masks and the hygiene and all that, the disinfection. So I think that was a great question, and Mayor, I would recommend that would be one of your recommendations to the governor.
The other comment I'd have on that too is when it comes to that point, I think what's going to happen with our businesses is just like you have to post your fire escape on the wall. You're going to have some kind of plan on the wall that indicates what you can and cannot do in there. So I think that's what each business needs to work on, their own business plan or their isolation plan, disinfectant plan as we move forward, I think, and that'll really help us.
Well, Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'm just thinking, sometimes it's dangerous when I have fresh ideas and I share them right off the bat. But, who else is better to rank and rate businesses in Globe as to their ranking in the way of protection, of distancing, of compliance? You could easily, I know Linda's out there somewhere, Facebook or whatever, and everybody's like, hey, it's safe to go here, it's safe to eat here, it's safe to shop here, and here's what you got to be careful about, So that's market, that's driven by the consumer, but the government's going to have to allow additional businesses to have that opportunity to compete with, can I provide a product or a service and be safe? And businesses learn to be adaptive because that is what drives them. Mr. Mayor, anything else?
If I'd like to add something on kind of on the PPE end, and it's something that I've experienced in my own workplace, and I'm seeing other businesses starting to practice it, but putting up shields that separate the counter from the employee from the customer. And ironically, I was having a conversation just the other day with my customer service representatives because our office now has these protective shields, and we've been having them installed in our offices for the last 4 or 5 years. But a comment that was made to me that was very interesting is that before the shields, where you just had an open space and a counter, my CSRs have actually reduced the illnesses that they've encountered just due to the shield. And, they both told me that over time they've realized that they're not as sick as they used to get. Of course, we deal with people every single day, walk-ins, many of them, 50, 80 a day. And the other evidence to that is the shields that we have now, they have to be cleaned because of the markings that are left on the shields from people coming up and talking. So I think it's a very effective method, and that'd be another recommendation that I would promote.
Very good.
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple more here, so let me go ahead and continue reading. This is from Johnny D. Flores, and I'm going to read 2 of the 3 paragraphs he sent. I'm just going to read the whole thing because it's not that long. So this is from Johnny D. Thank you for inviting community members and business owners the opportunity to share our thoughts regarding the reopening of our city and the economic recovery plan. I understand from an economic standpoint that businesses need to reopen and operating. With that being said, we cannot return to business as usual prior to COVID-19. If that were the case, then the last 30 days of closure would have been for nothing. There must be a new system of standards and regulations for both businesses and citizens. And we kind of talked about that. Those standards must be addressed publicly via radio, papers, social media, public billboards, etc. Before we can even consider reopening to the public, we can control it. We can control it if we can control ourselves. And then he adds on there, until then, keep it closed. So yeah, I think that what caught my eye in this one is it is a new day, it is a new set of standards, and I think that this period will be for naught if we don't carry those forward. I don't think that everybody's going to go back to handshaking and some of the other practices we've done that we know are not healthy. But I think we need to keep that momentum and apply those. Comments on Johnny D's idea that we need to hold on to the changes we learned and then educate. Okay, so I'm going to, and we thank Johnny D for contributing. The next one I have Lori Williams wrote a...
Roy or Roy?
Lori, it's a Copper Splash. Okay. And yeah, I am the butcher of all names, complex and simple.
That's all right. I don't hear very well.
Yeah, okay. While I want to keep people safe, I understand the need for better hygiene, more disinfecting, wearing gloves, masks, practicing a safe distance from others. I believe we can all act responsibly. She goes in some details of her trials and tribulations, which are many, as a new store owner that just getting off the ground. But she says, if we don't open soon, those of us with small businesses will be permanently out of business. Like many other small businesses, I don't have the reserves of cash flow to remain open after April 30th. Even then, I will be forced to close if business doesn't bounce back very quickly. But I think that's that bridge we're talking about. But she does talk about hygiene, and the safe distancing. I think she believes that she could do that. She is not considered a essential business, but we love her store. We'd love to see her back open. And she is exactly the kind of small business that I think could do a good job, if not better, than Walmart and other stores that, it's hard to, but I think she'd be wonderful at that. Okay. Any comments on that, on Copper Splash?
Comment?
Yes.
Our small business owners, are pretty much the same theme. They've accepted the fact that it's not going to be the way it used to be. They're looking at the safety and the hygiene and the social distancing and all that, which is very, very good because I think we're all getting used to it, And so it's good to see that they understand that, and I don't think it would be a problem for the consumer to walk into a store and, have to wait for maybe one customer to leave because there's too many in there, or safe distancing. It's just gonna be the new norm.
Yep.
That's all there is to it.
And so I have Mary and Council, ready for one more? Okay. And this is from JP Scammell, as in here he's District 6. Let's see. And so he would like to see the following changes to the executive order. He would like to see the very specific open gyms and fitness centers with heightened emphasis on social distancing and surface sanitation, allowance of on-site dining with a maximum occupancy restriction, and dining positioning to include heightened use of social and sanitary practices by facility and staff. I don't know how many times you almost got hit by somebody else's lunch order as you go through some places. So and then he adds, under no circumstances should the prohibition of bars, saloons, all consumption be lifted. The opening of these establishments at this time would be counted to good order. I would just count that as they need to be later rather than sooner. And then he goes some very good details, but I think that's relevant to the topic. And any comments on gyms and basically safe dining with stretching out, better distancing on the tables in between, so that when the waiter comes and does that, comments about spacing out restaurants.
This is not my comment. This is John Wong that owns Bloom's comment. He says the danger lies in the continuous compound spread of a virus with no clear cure in sight. If we open before Phoenix, Tempe, etc., we will get a flood of visitors from there, which will not be the right decision. And I know all of us, and Jesse, you in particular, can talk to that issue that happened here.
It's still happening.
It's still, I know that a friend of mine works at Walmart and said there's just every day more people that they don't know than our regulars.
They're still riding into town.
Yeah.
Still going through downtown, and I mean, it's great for the economy. I mean, they're still purchasing food, but
Yeah.
they're still coming here and they're parking and eating wherever they like.
And I think I saw that, Mr. Mayor, members of council, I saw that in some of the comments about opening the globe first, and I don't know how you do that. I don't know how Mr. Mayor, members of council, you've always had that, the one thing that you worried about is closing down, but the travel. And so maybe that means the travel restrictions stay in place and let each community kind of blossom and open up on their own schedule with their own residents. But I don't know how that transfers into policy.
They're not listening to the travel restrictions currently.
Yeah, and so it may be a combination of you open, but you add that travel restriction. We're gonna take allow the locals and the individual communities to lift up, but still keep that barrier between. And if there's more going on in your hometown, there's less need to go off to outside of other hometowns.
Can you legally restrict outside travel?
We can't. The governor, I don't know that the governor can, unless you get to the state line issue. I have not heard a good policy on how you restrict, because how do you decide? I mean, you get down a really thorny path of challenging where are you going and why are you going there. And so I don't see that. And then you hate to be the town that doesn't want to welcome people, because there are times when we do want to welcome people. And but
yet we had a instance here of several weeks ago where it was before, so it might have been a month ago, and the bars and restaurants were closed down in Phoenix and Tucson, but they were not here. And we had a couple that came here and stayed in a local B&B so they could go downtown to the bars and restaurants every night. They both worked from home. They would take their laptops into the bars and restaurants and spend the day. And they were from Phoenix. So yeah, we have to be really careful about how we go about this. I'm not telling you I know how we do this, but we have to be so cautious.
Yeah, I would think we wait till it starts, like a domino effect across the state, because if we open up first with all the people that's got time on their hands, forget it, man.
And oh, go ahead, Mayor.
No, and I think, that we totally understand. The 3 phases that were set down by the president, those are the phases he handed off to the state. And it's up to the governor to implement those. And phase 1 being that decline, and we're not seeing that. We're still seeing a growth in the Navajo Nation. We're seeing the growth in Maricopa. So we're nowhere near that. But when we do open, I think there's 3 phases. And I think when we talk about gyms, we're talking about they're in phase 1 or phase 2. I can't remember which one they're in.
Yeah,
And
phase.
the other thing is, even though you have those phases, today in Georgia, the governor's opening up gyms, barbershops, pool halls,
Well, that said,
alrighty.
and you're absolutely right. That said, I'm sorry, man, I jumped in, but
Go ahead.
I believe there's going to be an opportunity to gain some lessons learned because of that.
Yeah.
If they're going to be that proactive in Georgia and in that part of the country, we're definitely going to learn some lessons from what that will entail, what that will bring. Not that it's good or bad or indifferent, but that's an opportunity for us to pay attention.
And and like I say, and we do have those guidelines from the president. And I'm at phase 1. I mean, it's a lot of maintain the things that we've already done, minimize non-essential travel. I think groups larger than 10. I'd rather see smaller groups be able to do more than more groups would be able to do the same thing with bigger groups. I think the outdoor, I think some of the other states, one thing I think Ducey has it right is the ability of people to get outdoors and be outside, and especially with the heat coming on and the, viruses don't like heat. But I think the spacing, when I look at this, I know that in the first phase of the president's plan, bars should remain closed. Large venues, strict physical distancing protocols. Senior centers still closed down. I think elective surgeries going back, which I think need to happen. And then the fear of common areas. So there's a lot that they add into when the time is right.
Shirley?
I have a comment from Stacy Herrera that owns the Globe Gym. She said, how about fitness centers are for residents only, Globe residents only, no out-of-town drop-ins will be allowed. That's a very good thought.
She's a private owner, she could probably get away with it.
Right.
Back to letting businesses open and operate how they see fit and what's safe for them, if they feel safe.
Right. You'd have to look very carefully and make sure, but I think a private owner has a lot more power to do that. And but I think a gym is more of a local thing. I don't know how many people would, what's the number one thing about it that makes a gym good is how quickly can you get there and how often do you get there? And
I don't think many people come from the valley to go to the gym, honestly. I don't know, but I would assume that.
And that's truly what we want to hear. We heard from a restaurant owner, we got a gym owner that's on the phone, and a barber. These are the things we want to know, that they're willing to concede to get our community open.
Oh,
And I think that's how we make this happen when we're able to.
you're exactly right. I've met people in the Safeway parking lot. I'll meet them wherever. If they've got a dog that needs attention and I'll go to their house and pick the dog up. I truly have met many a time in the Safeway parking lot or whatever their comfort zone is, at City Park, is it wherever it is, I will do that. I think that's what small business owners do. I think that all of us that operate a business in this town, our customers matter. They're why we're here, and they keep us going. And we're going to do whatever it is we have to do, whatever concessions we have to make, we will. And it's not just me; it's all of them out there. This is a tough crowd we've got here. We've got the residents and the business owners in this town will do what needs to be done.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, actually, I have Stacy's email that she sent in about 5 o'clock here. I'm going to read it because it does talk a little bit more about that. It's a short email from Stacy. Being healthy and fit is the best way to fight off this virus, which is a very good point. You know, for many people in our community, the fitness center are a vital part of staying healthy. Is the fitness centers that have to stay closed for much longer. They'll not be able to sustain and will not be able to open back up. Please allow businesses to reopen and practice social distancing and sanitation guidelines. I think we know more about sanitizing than we did 2 weeks ago and more than we did 4 weeks ago. And so I think it's very much more real that we could do that. It wouldn't be up to City of Globe, it would be up to the governor to allow that to happen. But I think she makes a very good point with you want to fight off a virus, make sure your body is healthy and and you're exercising off all those extra
fries and burros
and Mayor, any comments on Stacy's email before I go on? No, I had let's see, somewhere in here I saw.
This is a good, while you're perusing, let me read this one because this is true. This says, one thing people need to remember is because of the circumstances, others are taking advantage of their second home, which might be here in Globe. They usually shop in the Valley. When they shop here, they are looked as outsiders shopping where they don't belong. And we do need to think about that because like the lady at Walmart saying that, or I'm sorry, was it, I don't know where it was now. There's one of the stores said there's more people every day that they don't recognize than they do. Maybe some of them are, this is their second home or this is their retirement home. Or some people haven't gone back. Some of the snowbirds haven't gone back because they feel safer here than they do back where they came from, where the population is higher.
Well, and if they're have the mask, I mean, I think it's, I get torn on this, the people from, visitors coming here, because I know that there are other places that are more prone to some of this. But if you're following the good practices, if you're wearing a mask, practicing good hygiene, keeping your distance, then welcome on board. And if you're not, then I think that's the final judge is how well you, do your part, because it's a social etiquette. It's an etiquette to wear a mask. When you wear a mask, you're saying to other people, I care to not infect you. I feel I'm safe, but you don't know that. So that's my etiquette, is to put that mask on for your protection. When you see somebody coming at you without a mask, that's somebody that you have to go, okay, I need to assume that there might be something there. They don't even know it, and I'm going to be careful. And Mr. Mayor, I do have one, Neil Jensen from Cobra Valley, the CEO for Cobra Valley Regional Medical Center, chimed in with an email, and I wanted to share his email that he sent in. It says, Dear Mayor and Globe City Council, thank you for your commitment and efforts protecting the safety of the citizens of Globe and surrounding communities. Regarding the reopening of local businesses, is my recommendations that you consult the country and state public health authorities, provide specific guidelines. I think we've heard that the council's already talked about the data and the facts. The health authorities are the ones that we at staff are relying on with when we're sitting in our group, our command structure, on making decisions on implementation, it's always, Gary politely reminds me, it's like, well, let's see what CDC says about that. And then we just struggle with trying to interpret that and make some phone calls, and we come to agreement. But I do believe that is also part of that puzzle, is looking to our partners. And I agree with Neil. And then, any comments on that? I have one more that Danny's so tech savvy. He says, I'm chatting to you. You have to respond. So he...
Well, I'd like to comment on Neil's...
Okay.
Also, that's going to be important that we get the what they feel beyond that, what they feel their need would be if we open up our community. You know, what do we need to be at as far as a testing capacity? You know, what do we have to be at as far as PPE? So I think that's going to be important. I think that's a call that I need to, or information I need to get from Neil before I submit these recommendations to, because our local hospital is going to be an important part of our opening up of our community.
I have a comment too along those lines. I spoke with all the TAs at Hope Family Care, and they think we need to hold off on opening. They said but we don't want to jump the gun. So they all feel like we need to, you know, put the brakes on this a little bit until we feel more comfortable. And that's three PAs. That I talked to.
Oh, no, I don't think, I mean, if we were to take a poll on should we start lightening up now, I know what that would get us. And so I just remind everybody, and when the time, the big caveat. Mr. Mayor, members of council, Danny chatted to me it's John Monsies, just a little quote he had on there. What if the restaurants use a reservation-only program? Must have a reservation. This would let the restaurant plan the business and allow disinfecting between groups. Just a thought. And if you have limited tables, spacing that out, I think that's a wonderful idea. Any comments on reservations?
I was just going to ask Mike, what is his thought?
What's that?
We turn to the restaurant to ask.
Reservations for me wouldn't work, only because I have people that come in for lunch and we need to get in and out.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't work. I don't serve dinners where it's more relaxing and laid back. So, but the proper distancing is what I wrote in my paperwork here. I think would be fine, but there's many times that I'm bombarded from 11 to 1 o'clock.
It wouldn't, you know, you can make it optional rather than you have to, you know.
Right.
That way in your business, people can come in and you know, for lunch, in and out.
And the people with time can go in and wait, and then
whatever, and relax wherever.
What about the restaurants or bars that have an outside area that they could utilize that to be outdoors?
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilwoman Giles, was it you that told me about somebody who said, like, this, put it out in the parking lot? I mean, the outdoor dining?
That was the first email I read. That
Okay, that must
fella's,
have been
yes, his idea was to put tables and chairs.
Yeah.
The downtown is not overwhelmed with cars right now. Why couldn't we in front of these, there are establishments that have back or side or what have you outside. Mike's just happens to be in front of his, but some are in the back or the side. Why isn't that a thought we need to think about, is let them utilize those areas so the people are outside. There's always a breeze blowing here, you know, you're safer outdoors in the nice weather than you are enclosed in a building. And one fellow's idea was to put tables and chairs in front of the establishments and allow them to, whatever the establishment is, if it's a bar, a restaurant, or what have you, and they could serve their patrons there. Right. I think that's a good idea. I had just gotten another, this is from Libby Rooney that runs the Chrysacoa. She says, even if businesses are following guidelines about social distancing, some customers don't do that. Widespread testing must happen before any opening. I also would require customers to wear masks. I don't know if we can make the customers wear the masks, but what about the people, like now, as of Monday, everybody that works at Walmart, not our Walmart, the entire nationwide, they have to wear masks. Mm-hmm. And one of our public works workers, his wife works there, and she had it on Sunday and said she was practicing because she was going to have to wear it 8 hours to Monday, the next day. And she said, I've got to get used to this. Now this is what we have to do. We have to wear these masks. That's a valid thought. And where are we at with the testing? How do we get more? I know we're so rural and we are getting so little testing. I mean, one local doctor said they get five tests a week. They have 4,000 patients in this county. They get 5 tests a week.
Well, I think our situation, I think is nationwide, is that we simply don't have the supply. And then it comes to funding. But I think that we could look at funding in the future for for each community somehow, but again, we need to meet the supply. We do not have just because, and we have tests local apparently in the hospital setting, in the health department and the offices, but there's criteria you got to meet because they don't want to use and test everybody because there's priority. You got healthcare workers, you got your vulnerable elderly that need to have those rapid testing. So they're really being restrictive as who they test. So it's about supply, bottom line.
So the residents understand, is it correct that because we're a rural area, we are getting less of everything, less tests, less supplies, less everything? It appears to be so.
I think it's proportional.
Yeah, there you go.
So the answer is yes, folks. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
And just to be totally accurate, the distribution is based on two things. It's proportional and the number of cases. Gila County was late in getting its first case, and so now we're having that, and so we were sitting here with I think 2 to 3 weeks without even the first case, and so when they were divvying up the stuff, there's some type of a calculation between the population and the percentage of positives you have. I guess the only good thing you can say about the fact that we now have 10 cases is now we've upped in that scale. So we should start getting more, and but I'll leave it at that.
And I think Freddie had the key word, proportional. So, per capita, on these lines, these conference calls, Mayor Gallegos out of Phoenix, Mayor Romero out of Tucson, out of Flagstaff, the mayor, the Sedona, they're begging for more testing kits. They still don't have it, even though they've tested way more than we have, but they have way more people too, but they still don't have supply.
And that's the biggest thing, is until the testing gets to a level that it makes sense, okay, we're not gonna know, and it's a big risk.
So let me see here. I did have Cindy Phillips had sent a quick email, but says sorry she cannot attend, but she just says I'm all for reopening. Not sure I can hold out another month. I think Cindy is with Turn the Page. There's I think the rest of the emails pretty much focus on the issue of when and not how. If council would indulge me, I did have a couple other thoughts and just reading through, share with you. Let's see what, I think one of the things I saw in one of the emails, I also saw it with the president's plan, age separation. You have to realize, you have to make, accept the fact that people who are in that vulnerable population shouldn't take part in some of the things that other people are doing. I think when we roll this out, I don't think there's anything wrong saying, we're going to open up restaurants, but if you're in your 50s or better and you have one of the factors, you shouldn't probably go out to dinner. I think let people take on their personal responsibility. I think that's the one of my frustrations, and we all hate the fact that the health departments and HIPAA and all that, but you want to kind of know the people who are having problems, what are their underlying issues, so I can tell if that's me, do I qualify? But I think in general we can say age separation and factors. I know Councilman Pastor, what Jesse might do and do very safely, you probably shouldn't. And so if we open up restaurants, say, let's encourage those people who are healthy and don't have those underlying to do that, but recognize that we're not going to have a one-size-fits-all solution. We're not. The governor shouldn't try to have a one-size-fits-all solution. It should be with these factors. It says if you're healthy, if you don't have underlying conditions, yes, go out and do great spacing in a restaurant and eat in. But if you're still not ready for that, or you're not prone to that, then do the fast line at the Copper Hen and just stand up there, get your food, and they'll cart it over to the park. So.
I think they do, don't you? Yeah, they deliver.
I think they do. So, outside is outside is safer.
We got Fernando.
Thank you. So, being on the hospital board, I know that we have a very limited amount of tests that we are able to get. So we have some very strict criteria of who qualifies for it and who does not. And so we have 102 cases that have been investigated in Gila County, all of Gila County. And so we've not done testing. So we don't know who has it, who does not have it. Some people are not symptomatic. Now, the one thing that I'm concerned about, though, is that the idea that only the elderly are susceptible, which is garbage. I have a friend of mine, and now he's about 42 years old. He can outrun me any day of the week. And he's been fighting for his life on a respirator for 3 weeks. His wife he has 3 young children. We don't know who is gonna not handle it well and who is. And so I think we really got to sit down and say, where are we? If we could test everybody, then it would make more sense, but we're not there. And honestly, you can't hold people back forever. So that at some point they're gonna have to take responsibility for their own risk and their own families.
Fernando, question I should ask you, I guess, is it more that supply or funding, finance, as far as testing? Is it more a supply issue?
No, it's a supply issue. The tests are about $85 a piece, and if we had to eat it, we would. That's not the issue. The issue is we don't have the ability to eat that many people.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, like I say, I think a couple of the points I wrote down that I've talked about, hanging on to what we've learned. I think we need to just make this the new normal for our health and safety of hygiene and handshaking. But I do believe that now that when this opens up, we'll hopefully, the thought is we're on the downside. And at that point, we give more personal responsibility to people for them to make their decisions as to what their risks and what they aren't. And we encourage anyone who has a comfort level that is not much, my wife included, who is very protective, but other people who feel that they can, that they're okay, and that they can go out there, let them decide. And because who better knows you and your family and your community, the bottom up, allowing people to make their choice rather than the government. There's an umbrella that needs to have happened of protecting people, but as we lift off, I think we let people decide and let them come back to more economic activity as they feel comfortable. And I know there's some people will go over the top. There always is. There's outliers. But that's what I see is letting the people as they feel comfortable. Some way to ratchet it up to allow people who feel comfortable to make that change. And then I wrote down spacing. It seems like everything comes back to that 6 foot, So I think we all have hoop skirts that are 6 foot wide.
Paul, do you have any other emails that haven't been read?
Oh, yeah,
I
no,
don't want
I
people
do.
to think they haven't.
Well, but they're off.
Are they
topic.
reiterated?
Yeah, they're off topic, and they get way into the discussion of the arguments that are a little bit more political about when we open up. But I would recommend. I mean, we're I think at 7:00 now. But I would recommend that we enter these all in the record. And I would also recommend that we take every one of the emails we've gotten from the start when we did this, and we'll put them on the website, we'll put them on the front page, and anybody can click through and read them all. I think they become, I think 20 years from now, I think people are going to be curious as to what happened when Globe Arizona said, what do you think? And I think we take all these emails, we put them as part of the minutes and part of the record, and then we put them for everybody to look at on the website. And so I'd be happy to do that.
That's a good idea.
And,
That's a
and
great
I'm
idea.
not saying that I don't value all of them, but I think if we get into some of these conversations, I'll tell you, we'll be here for a little bit longer.
Mr. Mayor?
Ready?
If I could just add a couple things on nations. I think, I mean, we talk a lot about PPE, but I think there should be some training on how to use the proper PPE or how to properly use the PPE. I think it's sometimes a lot of it might be taken for granted that people know how to use these things. And if we don't know how to use our PPE, then the PPE is not effective. The other thing is we talked about disinfections and things like that. I believe that it's imperative that the businesses that do open that are when we get to that point, that they have sufficient supplies to be able to do those disinfection measures and quantities. I know that's going to be a burden, but I just believe that disinfection is going to be a huge part of reopening this country. And so we've got to make sure that everybody's properly supplied. And my last comment is, we talked about the separation and social separation, but nobody really has talked about enforcement of that separation and what that's going to look like and who's going to be responsible for that. So I think that's something that I think people need to start at least thinking about how that's going to happen. And this is more, I know a lot of it's going to be placed on the business owners, because it is their business and they are entertaining guests. But we just got to figure out how those measures would be enforced. Thank you.
Thank you, Freddie.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I want to take just a quick point of personal privilege. Freddie in his other life works with Arizona Water, and Freddie has we've had conversations offline about the things that his company has done. He is facing the same challenges that we have been facing, and his company is on top of it and very progressive as a private organization, doing very well about protecting his staff and their customers too. And kudos for the allowing me to bounce off information and ideas on what I've learned from him and what he's we've shared on these, because this is a learning process. We're learning from the league, we're learning from conversations with other cities, but in the actual how do you handle a water bill with $35 of money that's been where? And how do you handle a customer that, there's a lot of content specific stuff. So Councilman Rios, thank you for your help in helping our professional bouncing these back and forth on our common interest in providing water services.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the recognition. As I've said when we first started our discussions, if there's anything that I can do to help this community and share information on what we're doing and how it might be able to help our community and our staff, for that matter, because we're all in it together. I mean, I'm not inventing a new language when that's said, and so you're more than welcome. And anytime you want to talk, we can talk.
Okay, thank you.
Along with that too, I'd like to also acknowledge City Manager Joe Heatherly from Miami. Also, when he heard we had the positive cases, we talked, and he also offered any assistance that we needed. If we needed to isolate our administrator, whatever, he offered space where we could also utilize theirs if that's needed. So he reached out for us to reach out to them if we need that type of assistance.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Gila County, everyone in Gila County has been nothing but supportive to the city, including the county who we've heard from and everybody. And so I think that's a 100-year tradition of helping each other. And we do what we can, and people have reached out and offered for what we may need. So I thank everyone out there who sent their thoughts, hopes, and prayers. And like I say, we will have a more comprehensive report in a week on the implementation of the changes that are going on right now.
And one more comment on Freddie's thing about disinfectant or supplies needed to open. In our state, we don't have a law against price gouging. Is that the case? We don't have a law, so I think in the legislature, that's where we need to push a bill to, like other states have, where you cannot price gouge things when in cases like this. I think we've seen that in certain cases in the valley. So I think as a state, we need to push it through the legislature on price gouging.
Well, and no, I think
I think there's a move to do that.
Yeah.
Introduce it.
Yeah. no, and
It's more than 10% is what I heard. Is that what you heard? There was a number you could call.
I read some stuff the other day about what they're looking at.
And I did see, I know that, Mr. Mayor, members of council, I did know that, the whole toilet paper fiasco, I saw somewhere in another country, somebody had speculated on toilet paper, picked up 1,500, I think, rolls, and was unable to sell it online, and then tried to take it back to the store they bought it and tried to get a refund. And that did not go well.
Well, I hope they said no.
And I think there was a big no. So I think the point to that story makes me think about it is online retailers are not letting, I believe the majority of them, I mean, there's market prices, and I've seen some pretty outrageous prices for certain things, but they think they've tried to do that where, taking advantage of people by doing that is kind of seemly. So. And there is one quick, Danny, the email that you sent me, from Courtney, do you have that? Can you see that one?
It was, if you have the email off, it was at 6:27 p.m.
At what time?
6:27.
6:27. Let me see.
The name shows up as Denise.
Okay. We're trying to, let's see. 6:27. There it is. Nope. Oh, there. You think I should read this? I don't have it right. I'm gonna.
That's the one that contacted me offline.
Okay.
Businesses being open that are not essential.
Would you like me to read that?
Well, she would like it, I guess.
Yeah. I haven't pre-read this. I'm just gonna go for it here.
It's got a lot in there, though.
Oh, okay. Let me preview this.
No, we can't edit people's
Yeah,
comments.
no, we can't.
Well, we should not be doing that.
Okay, and so.
I think she wants to know the policies in regards to
Oh, is that?
law enforcement and non-essential businesses still currently operating against the executive orders.
Oh, okay.
That looks like.
Okay. So, and just to explain to council, this was agendized as recommendations to council and to the mayor on reopening. This is irrelevant to the COVID situation, but it's not really in line with the topic. Just the way that the timing on the opening is not relevant to the topic. So I'll take this, I'll respond to it, but I don't think this is the proper forum for that. And we did put in the agenda that we've reserved the right, and I checked with the attorney, to edit for brevity and to combine comments.
And all of these are going to just be put on the record.
But yeah, the full record will be posted. This will be posted with everything else. Okay.
But this comment can be responded to by
Yes,
staff
it needs
immediately.
to be
Yeah, no.
responded to.
Right. Yeah, no, I need to, this one would be more,
And if
like I
there's
say, wouldn't fit
businesses
into
that are
the agenda.
opening out the back door, and there's other like businesses that are not because they're following the order, that's not cool. That should not be allowed.
Well, and right, and that's something that if we, it's something, let me look at it, and it's something that we need to address in a properly agendized item on the 28th, we can do that. Okay.
So we're to the point where, do we have any comments, any closing comments? I'll open it up to any of the council if you want to say anything, and then we'll move on from there.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I would say the two things I've been harping on with everybody is, if you don't want to have that sick feeling when you hear that somebody is getting tested or somebody is sick, just go through your mind and think of all those people that you don't know about, but you may have let yourself get 6 feet. If you want to have confidence and sleep well, you just, when you're out there in public, at work, anywhere, other than your loved ones and people you're familiar with, if you just keep that polite 6-foot distance, you won't have that fear. Well, I won't say you won't have it, but it'll help go, if you keep that spacing, then that gives you a comfort, because it's the spacing is what keeps the virus away from you. The masks do too, but the spacing. And then the other thing, if you feel sick in the morning, I know that I'm a boomer, and it's like, I'm going to drag my you-know-what to work, and I'll tough it out, and I don't care. This is not the time to be John Wayne and coming to work sick. Okay, you need to tell your supervisor, and this is any employer, anybody, even if you're going to grandma's house. If you feel sick, stay home. If you get sick or you start feeling bad in the middle of something, don't wait. Say, I got to excuse myself. I need to get out of here. Put on a mask and go home, and then see what it is.
And our employees are practicing that?
Yes, they all of them will be very soon, and it will be part of a policy that is enforceable as part of the personnel policy procedures. Now, I think they want to and everything like that, but I think the distancing is easy to enforce, is easy to measure. I will tell you that this, from what I've talked to and what I've learned, this comes on quick. You can feel fine in the morning, and by 11 o'clock, you're like, what is going on inside me? I don't know. And that's the time to go. But if you don't feel well in the morning, call your supervisor. We're in the city, we'll make sure that everybody has enough sick time to handle this. But if you're working wherever, you're at Walmart, you're at Fry's, you're working for the hospital, if you don't feel good in the morning, talk to your supervisor and tell them what's going on. Just have that conversation, and then the two of you and your supervisor, decide what you should do for your work, out of not being the tough hero that's going to show up sick, but the person that's going to be respectful of others and find out what's going on before you come in. I think that one message: if you feel sick, stay home.
But it really does come on that fast.
Yes, it does.
We had it. I know we had it in my household in January, because I've never, you're fine, and in 2 hours, you don't even think you can lift your legs up to walk across the driveway. It does come on that fast.
Anybody else?
I have another text. Can I read? Did you have something you wanted to say before? Okay, so this is from DJ. She's a bartender at Farley's. She says, here's a thought. Let's have a council meeting with attendees from the health department, representatives from our local hospital, and some local doctors. Then the whole community can get information and suggestions from them. They can answer so many of our questions, and a lot of the questions the mayor has about how to acquire more testing and PPE for our area. That's a really good idea. Can we work on that?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilwoman Giles, I will tell you, I probably was in a revolving 8-hour conversation with the county health department on Sunday, from about 11 o'clock to probably 5 o'clock. So it was that 6-hour conversation, and that was on their Sunday. And I know we weren't the only thing going on. They're swamped. They're working. They're doing updates on Saturday and Sunday. I don't know. I can check with them and see if somebody is willing to come to a meeting. I think they're. But I worry about just the sum total of the workload. That those people at the county, and they're doing a marvelous job. They have experts. They have people who know this stuff. I mean, nationally qualified people, highly educated, and looking out after Gila County. If I will ask, but just be patient if they say not yet, because they have so much going on.
That's for sure.
But we can try.
We will definitely try.
Anybody else? Before we close?
Just want to say stay safe, everybody.
I just want to thank everybody also who submitted. I would thank the council first for doing this and submitting ideas, and thank everybody that sent emails. I definitely want to go through those before we send these in. I wrote a bunch down, and I want to get all those that we have before it's sent this week to the governor's office. I also want to say that this is an eye-opener, I think, for all of us in our community. Our local businesses and the people that have been laid off, they're paying the price right now. I hope that opens our eyes that we have preached to try and say that we need to shop local. Quit driving 2 hours or an hour down the road to save $5. It's time that we take care of our community and help them bring back their business. All these essential businesses that have provided, that have stayed open in the community, they helped us get there. So I think as a community, we need to show our appreciation for their service and their sacrifice during this time. So I hope this changes our mind about doing local, business local, and not driving just to save a couple of bucks. So we thank all the businesses, all the people laid off, and all the people that are still open, or the businesses, because they're not, some of these businesses aren't up to 100%. They're barely scrapping by. So we should appreciate that. Thank you. So next we go to action items. And we have consideration to approve contract agreement from number CA-2020-0023, utilizing the cooperative agreement of Pinal County and Cactus Asphalt contract number 175932 to complete seal coat and asphalt projects at various locations throughout the city of Globe in an amount not to exceed $760,000 to be funded through half-cent excise tax and HERF funding as outlined in the CIP items. Jerry.
Can you hear me all right?
Ooh, yeah.
Yes, we can.
So first of all, Mayor and Council, thank you for being so careful about things. It's been a rough couple of weeks, so from the city staff, we appreciate your being careful and guiding the city forward. So what I have is a fairly simple item. But I did want to explain it because of the situation we're in. I didn't want to be questioned with the amount of money, but everything in this item, the $760,000, is money that is out of the half-cent excise and out of HERF money that can only be spent on highways. So I wanted to explain that. And that way you didn't think that, well, yeah, we're not getting so much revenue, but this money can only be spent on that. Okay, so basically this is a continuation from last year. It's a cooperative contract with Pinal County Cactus Asphalt that we have permission to tag on to. The list that I gave you at the last council meeting, we will be doing those items. Deanie pointed out to us that we will need to run not so much the contract back through council, but the dollar amount. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing tonight.
Question?
So,
Jerry, go ahead. Did you have?
So basically, I'm asking that you approve the contract with Cactus Asphalt, use the cooperative contract with Pinal County and Cactus Asphalt in the amount of not to exceed $760,000 to be funded out of CIP. The special money from Dave Cook for the HERF money, and then the additional $113,000 HERF money. And this was all approved in CIP.
So we have had Cactus Asphalt do multiple projects for us, and they've always done a very good job.
Same thing, it's just that we're running this contract through you.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Jerry, and so this, if approved by council, this will start up on Thursday?
Thursday.
And I think...
Well, okay, so let me qualify. There's three things that have to be done by Cactus. One of them is the chip seal, one of them is the fog coat, and the other is the mill and fill asphalt. The chip seal will start on Thursday.
Okay.
We'll start prepping for it.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, and Jerry, then we'll get some public PSAs out and let everybody know where they'll be going and what will be limited access.
Yeah, we will, and we also will put up hangers, which we're talking about now because we're behind the 8 ball. We're gonna hang door hangers.
Okay. Okay, good.
And then as we progress, do the PSAs.
Okay.
And Jerry, this paving, these are areas that have been under construction, and this is just finishing up the job that has been started there?
These are some of the areas under construction. For instance, Euclid, which was heavy construction on it this year. It will get asphalt on it. A lot of mill and fills in areas throughout the city, in all 6 districts, in fact, that are needed to maintain the preventive maintenance on the road. All the roads for chip seal have been sealed. Crack sealed at this point.
Mr. Mayor?
Ready?
Jerry, these jobs that you have scoped, this is within your 20-year plan, correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and just to qualify something that I said at another council meeting, when I was talking about our crews being down, I was talking about the crack seal crews being down by 2/3. And so when you have a 9-man crew and 6 of them are inmates, that's what was done. Not the entire public works.
Mayor. However, those crack seal guys, for the few bodies we have out there, if you go on some of those roads, which I've driven on every one of them that were crack sealed just to check it out, they had to have spent days and days and days. They've gotten every crack there is. Those guys did a heck of a job. They really did, for as down as they are in manpower.
So thank you, Councilman. The guys are really nervous about finishing in time, but we made the deadline. With everything that's going on in public works, that was quite a feat for them.
Well, thank every one of them.
Will do.
Mr. Mayor, if there are no other comments or questions, I would like to make a motion to approve contract agreement form number CA 2020-0023, utilizing the cooperative agreement with Pinal County and Cactus Asphalt, contract number 175932, to complete seal coat asphalt projects at various locations throughout the city of Globe in the amount not to exceed $760,000, to be funded through the half-cent excise tax and HERF funding as outlined in the CIP items.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Motion passed.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, before we end tonight, I did want to go back to Councilman Giles' question about getting professionals here. I did get we got a quick note from Libby Rooney, Dr. Rooney, and she's willing to come, or I think she's willing to share with us. I don't know if she'll be able.
Holly
Rooney, I'm sorry.
Is the doctor.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Libby Rooney is her cousin that runs the Chrysacoa, but Holly owns the Chrysacoa.
All right.
But Holly is the doctor.
Okay, I just gave her a promotion.
She would come. That's awesome.
Well, and I think I'll reach out to the Rooneys, and I just wanted to, a point well taken, that I am not a medical professional. Everything that I have mentioned here is my my personal take. I would not do not seek, if you need help with trying to, save tax dollars, run a city, I can help you with that. But seek many opinions from medical professionals on anything I said. I'm just one person living their life in Globe, Arizona. And I'd love to see Dr. Rooney, if possible.
And so Dr. Rooney has a huge practice here. She's got, I threw out the number 4,000. I know it's more than that, but I don't know exactly what it is. That practice has a lot. That's Hope Family Care, where you talk to the PAs, Mike. I mean, there's a doctor and 3 physician's assistants. Yeah. Everybody knows her. That that would be a great person
I
to
think
do.
it'd be-
But it needs to be a public forum so how do we do that?
Oh, no, we just put it on the agenda.
We do it virtually.
Yeah, we put it on the agenda for the Tuesday night and allow, I think we can do I think this is a good model. It worked really well, where we say if we can line her up, get her on the agenda, and post the questions for the doctor, and then we can, the same way, maybe not as long, but have a set of questions lined up that she can respond to when she comes in or comes online. So let us work through if we can make that happen. We're getting ambitious here on our technology, but if we could get questions from council, questions from the public, and someone of her caliber and knowledge to respond from hearing, the concerns of Globe residents from a Globe doctor, I think that would be
Born and raised.
advantageous.
Born and raised here, yeah, yeah. She's got a lot of respect. That would be great. Thank you, Holly, for offering. Let's
Well,
make that happen.
it was notes from Libby, so I don't know if Holly knows anything
Oh,
about
well, Libby, Mr. Arm.
Fernando, did you have a comment? No? Okay,
I do not.
okay.
Just a good discussion, and none of us had the answers, but we just kept it the best we can.
You bet. And I know we're a long ways off from, or not a long ways, but it's a way still till we open, but at least this is a start for maybe us developing what we call a rebound plan or something for our city. This is really a good start for us. We thank everybody.
I have one final comment. And we all need to thank our mayor, because those of us that sit up here know how much time and effort Al devotes to this city, but I don't think the average public has a clue that the guy's retired, but he works more hours now for the city than when he was the fire chief. I know that. It's true. I'm not telling you anything that isn't true. So thank you from all of us. And I don't mean us here. I mean all of us, this whole community.
Thank you.
Okay, mask up, friends. Here we
Do we
go.
have a motion for adjournment?
Motion made.
Mr. Mayor, I think, did we breeze through there's no need for e-session? I don't think you need to handle,
Well, none of us is staying for that. We're tired.
yeah, no.
So
I didn't-
sorry.
We just put it on there. But, Mr. Mayor, if you look, we have e-session agendized, but there's no need for e-session. So just so everybody watching understands, it was just there in case you had a question about the asphalt contract.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second for adjournment? Second. We have a motion, second for adjournment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Mask up before you step down.
Thank you.